Mio first meets Zoe as she scrambles onto the elevator before the door closes, both at Raiders for a publishing deal, both with the same goal, but both with very opposing views on how to achieve it. One is a more jaded sci-fi writer, the other story exploring facets of fantasy. At first glance, there isn't a lot of chemistry to be seen, and Mio quickly expels any notion of a friendship with the snap of a finger. After a series of unfortunate mishaps, they both end up in the same simulation, experiencing each other's stories, forced to work together despite their clear and obvious differences. It's a fairly bog-standard setup, but much like the marriage counselling premise of It Takes Two, it does the job well enough to introduce the co-op gameplay. And that's all it needed to do. Then, the first and only important decision is to be made. Character selection. I take a second to think who I'd rather play. I gravitate towards Mio, likely where sci-fi influence was strong throughout my childhood, but look up to see my wife has already made a decision. She selected Zoe. Suits me, I guess. I ask why, expecting a region much like my own. Instead, she looked at me and said, "The other one just seemed like a bit of a bitch." Maybe this was the first sign of the on-the-nose and largely one-dimensional writing. Never mind. The duo swept through a dizzying opening, navigating an open battlefield, being careful not to slip into the deep abyss below. Eventually to take over an aircraft, Zoe tasked with eliminating the air traffic, while Mio frantically steers clear of moving debris. Just as quickly as the battle begins, we look back to find a horde of trolls chasing us up a medieval watchtower, one slip up, spelling their end. We finally reach the strange glowing glitch hanging above. Only now can we look at each other and say, Hazelight have only gone and done it again.
Well, this was certainly unexpected.
Zoe, what am I? Wait, no, am I?
Yes, calm down. We're just pigs.
Just pigs. Just pigs? Actually, we're super pigs.
We are both pretty confused at this point. What the hell is actually going on? The silence is only broken in the moment I soar through the sky with a luminous rainbow fart trail in my wake. Hazelight have already showed off their weird side in It Takes Two, but this is some seriously batshit stuff. We push further, embracing the weird tonal shift, as Zoe tries to explain what on earth is actually happening. The further we delve, the more joy it brings. There is something immensely entertaining in the childlike. Feels like going back in time to when games and stories can come from anywhere, when imagination was everything we needed for play. After making a few apple offerings to the oddly authoritative pig door, the facade begins to crack.
Delicious apples. Thank you.
This side story is wild, so...
Some bleak imagery starts to appear. Pigs spit roasting other pigs, implying some sort of dark cannibalistic tendencies. No bother. Hazelight have a history of taking games to some dark places. This was not enough to put a halt to the enjoyment. They continue to interact with the world, blowing a house down for a handy achievement. Dodging and weaving between rolling bales of hay, only for the sequence to culminate in a trip down the slide. It gives Zoe and Mio time to appreciate the serenity, gives them time to breathe, away from the fighting and the chase sequences of the cyberpunk city. It allows them to relax.
Slide. Yep, here we go.
There was a moment or two where neither my wife or I really knew how to react. We just kind of stared at the screen in disbelief. I guess shock is a powerful storytelling device. And the chance was only really broken when my wife pointed out we were still in control. Now, before we started playing, if someone told me I'd be taking control of a sausage, I'd been pretty skeptical. But cooking and serving yourself for consumption, I'd have questioned your sanity. Only 2 missions in, and Split Fiction is already a testament to the creativity and borderline insanity of Hazelight Studios developers. Hopefully, they can keep it up.
Hey, wait, no, 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 no!
contestants. Let us all hope that this aspiring duo will be the lucky ones who get to survive.
It was an elaborate game of hot potato, except the potato is slightly more explosive. Round 1 is fairly straightforward, but the challenge ramps up quickly. A couple of deaths here and there, holding onto the bomb for too long, the odd wayward throw, and finally, the target. Its event atop the game show's gigantic head. A way out. We jump the gaps, bide our time as not to get fried by the electricity, boost pad up to the top, all while carefully juggling the explosive. I make my way up and turn the camera towards Zoe. She makes the final ascent, and I peer left at my wife, controller in a vice-like grip. And then it happens, almost in slow motion. Despite the prompt on screen, she squeezes the right trigger.
Do your thing, Mio!
Oh well, it probably won't happen again.
That'll leave a mark.
At this point, we're both in fits of laughter, making it difficult on subsequent attempts to get close to the target. But the attempts are so quick, respawning so fast, that failing just gets funnier and funnier and funnier. Dying for silly reasons has become an integral part of the experience, not a roadblock or an unnecessary barrier to entry. No frustrations for failing so close to victory. And if anything, failing, even if mildly annoying, keeps us in this side story for longer, keeps us in this world for longer, and it's an experience we desperately don't want to end.
So, did we win? Yes. Jump! What?
How heavy is a dragon's egg?
Ooh, it's heavy. Just
Sure it is. Despite this, Zoe and Mio both move with ease. Split Fiction's movement is simple but elegant. Timing grapples together prevents untimely deaths as we make our way down the slide, jumping over obstacles to get to the door. The towering stone door slowly rolls away, revealing a giant cracked dragon egg, housing what looks to be an ancient civilization.
what came out of that egg?
It's a point in the game that truly warrants being absorbed. We spent quite some time sitting and taking in the beauty.
You needed to eat every day.
The vistas Mio and Zoe have explored have each had their own atmosphere, but where some of the cityscapes could be interchangeable, this view was something else. I think we spent way too long drinking it all in, but it wouldn't be the first time. We deliberately rested at benches to take in the beautifully realised worlds Hazelight had created. For both of us, it was enjoyable just to admire the artist's handiwork, although Zoe and Mio probably sit concerned given the sudden drop in urgency and the game's apparent stakes. Oh well, their stories probably weren't worth stealing anyway.
Let's disco!
I'm not a stranger to a beautiful landscape or skybox. I have a crippling Destiny 2 obsession, and those artists are some of the best in the business. But in Split Fiction, it feels unnecessary. Without the spectacular vistas, the game would still be a contender for Game of the Year. Now it just feels like showing off. But showing off in the best possible way. It's not cocky, it's just another display of pure talent.
Surprise!
Soon after Raider's temper tantrum, Zoe and Mio find themselves in a unique situation. They are both separated, trapped in their own worlds. The scenery is familiar, but the story is unrecognisable. Pretty soon they discover that they were not separated in the first place, but something is very wrong with the simulation. A crane in the sci-fi world looks to be a carnivorous plant in the other. An impassable gap for Mio is simply swimmable by Zoe. It's some seriously cool shit, the likes of which I've certainly never experienced before, and this is just the beginning. Puzzles are interrupted by boss fights against the towering Raider, who attacks you with enemies from the protagonist's own stories, or by slamming into the arena to create obstacles or fissures which must be avoided. It is bombastic, but it's only the start. Now, the game's central partition becomes the mechanic. It breaks the fourth wall, rotating to reveal safe platforms or death traps. Zoe and Mio now able to freely leap over the once concrete divide to find safety. The simulation collapses around them, much like the machine they are plugged into. And just as we get used to the spiralling platforms, the formula switches once again. Mio is now trapped in a TV, and Zoe can influence the environment by slamming into the screen. Every single one of these moments leaves us in awe. But there's no time to rest. Panic ensues as Mio must escape the grasp of the meat grinder hot on her tail.
This is my show!
Endings can often feel anticlimactic. It Takes Two had this issue. I mean, what the hell is this? All that effort and creativity to finish on this soppy bullshit. I'm getting carried away. Where was I? Split Fiction's ending was the highlight. It's an outstanding experience in a game full of outstanding experiences. Any single one of the environments, puzzles or side stories could be the central pillar for its own standalone game, yet they are all discarded regularly, with the developers knowing what they have served next is even tastier. And then when the credits roll, we both forgive the uninspired writing, the weak characterization, because at the end of the day, we were just happy we got to share the experience. And just like It Takes Two, we will talk about Split Fiction for months to come.